We welcome you all to this press briefing, which is an extraordinary, urgent press briefing, an election watch update on today, polling day. Without further ado, I'm going to defer to our presidential chief election agent, who's going to first address us, and then we'll see what follows from there. Thanks.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good evening.
Now, as we promised earlier on when we met in the morning, we promised that we will be giving you updates on the ongoing election as reports coming from all over the country flow into our offices. The first thing to do perhaps is just to convey the message from the President that he appreciates the resilience that has been shown by the Zimbabwean public, who despite delays and hindrances, they have remained resolute that they will not go home without casting their ballot and expressing their will through the right to exercise to vote. Now, despite the frustrations of being made to wait in queues for long hours, not knowing when they will vote, the majority have chosen to stay put and exercise their democratic right. The second issue that we want to highlight this afternoon, or evening rather, is to bring to you the various concerns that have arisen throughout the day as we were receiving reports. Now, we are still receiving these reports, but one of the most significant reports we continue to receive is that as at 3 p.m. this afternoon, some polling stations in Harare, particularly Ward 16, in Warren Park, Ward 15, Budiriro, Ward 33, the voting had not yet started. We were receiving calls from the candidates there, worried whether the ballot is still going to continue, whether voting is still going to continue. What we have done is that we do not hurry and come here to address you about our concerns. The first thing that we do is that we approach ZEC and engage ZEC and seek explanations regarding the current defect that we are experiencing. I can confirm that I have been to ZEC in the morning. I've been there seeking explanations. Oh, thank you. I see that observer was also just coming in to observe this press conference. So, like I was saying, we have gone to ZEC and sought clarity on the delays that have been experienced in the conveyance of ballot papers, especially for the local authority elections, to the various polling stations. Unfortunately, we've not been able to obtain satisfactory explanations for those delays. Now, the problem that we have is that you will recall that on the 18th of August 2023, if I'm not mistaken, they issued a publication that they had printed ballot papers, and they specified the number of ballot papers that had been printed, that they were ready to be distributed. Now, the question to be asked is why have those ballot papers not found their way to the respective polling stations on time to enable the electorate to vote on time within the anticipated time frames? That explanation is not forthcoming. Of course, we are all aware that in terms of the law, people have an opportunity to vote within 12 hours of voting starting, which might mean that those who started voting at 2 might have to vote up to 2 a.m. in the morning. So they have that leeway to vote. This is why we have insisted that our members who have soldiered on, stayed at the polling stations to have the opportunity to vote, must stay there, must be able to exercise their right to vote. And so this is what has been transpiring, and these explanations have not come. And it is strange, the only body that can clarify that issue is obviously ZEC. And before we obtain such clarification from ZEC, everyone can only wonder what is happening. So this is not only happening in Harare. We've been receiving calls from Penalonga, we've been receiving calls from Manicaland of the issue of the delayed vote. Of course, in Bulawayo there were delays, but they started voting, some early, some at 10, and some much later on. But it is important for us to say, it is very critical for ZEC to be able to come to the public and indicate why the voting has been delayed in these places. The biggest mandate of ZEC is transparency. Transparency is making information available and telling the public what is happening. I made to understand that a presser was issued earlier on by the ZEC officials, but at this stage as a party, we are not satisfied with the explanation. And certainly you may not be surprised that some people have been disenfranchised, especially those from the CCC strongholds, the metropolitan parts of the country, who should have been able to vote by now. We should have been starting to think about vote counting by now, but that has not yet happened. So we are really worried about this. The other worry, the other concern that has arisen is that in some parts, particularly Chikanga, Murao, our polling station, we received information that the ballot papers for the presidential vote were not sufficient. Now, it begs the question, how is it possible? Because these ballots, when they are sent out on the basis of the registered voters of the polling station. So how is it possible that ballot papers can be said to be insufficient? So that is another issue that we are flagging to the public. Also important is that I'm sure you are all now aware, social media is awash with the reports of the exit poll desks that are all over, and you probably know who has been manning those exit poll desks. These are a concern because to us they constitute voter intimidation, and they are a hindrance to the exercise of the free will to vote. So this is a concern which is really worrying us as a party. But after all is said and done, we are still insisting that our people have done well to remain at their polling station, to remain strong and steadfast, wishing to cast their ballots. Of course, there have been reports of violence, with visuals coming from all over the country of people who have been attacked. We have the situation of one of the honorable members, a candidate from Zarabani, Honorable Wellington Gweru. He was attacked this afternoon. As we were coming to this presser, he was actually at the police station making a report. You are all also aware of the situation involving one of the candidates, Tongai Jake from Bindura, where there was a petrol bomb, and that an infant was harmed and is currently in hospital. So these are some of the issues that have so far arisen. There are multiple issues. We cannot exhaust them at this conference. All we need to do is to alert the public, to alert the media, to alert the observers, so that they are watchful as they go about their business in this election. Perhaps also just to indicate that we've received reports from other parts of the country where the level of assisted voters is quite high. In one of the places, the report I received was that assisted voters are about 90%. This is also worrying. Some of these details are details that would require members of the media to verify, would require observers to verify, would require ZEC to bring to our attention, because the easiest thing for ZEC is to be able to clarify issues even where they are not clear. Our purpose here is not to mislead and misinform the public. Our purpose here is to come and place issues before you so that those who care, those who have the capacity to go about as members of the media, as members of the observer missions, they can also go and verify on their own. But more importantly, that ZEC should be able to clarify any issues and dispel any suspicions that might exist in the minds of the voting public, as well as those that are observing these elections. So for now, I would say that these are some of the issues that we have. There are multiple issues that have arisen. Reports are still coming in. So we'll keep you updated. We'll keep coming to you. If you find anything also that requires our attention as a political party, please bring it to our attention. It is absolutely important in this watershed election for us to all put our heads in the same direction and make sure that we stand for a democratic dispensation that has got the principles that are enshrined in the Constitution all realized, enforced, and recognized. For now, I thank you. So let me at this juncture allow an official from our elections directorate, Ms. Ellen, to come and address you on other issues that I may have left out in my address. Ellen.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the press. I'll just make a few additions with respect to what is transpiring today and also what has been encountered by the people of Zimbabwe. Basically, I'll talk about mainly the challenges that we experienced, particularly issues around the ballot paper. We have noted with concern as the CCC the delays in the provision of the ballot papers to the respective constituencies and votes, and due to that, we had seen delays in terms of the starting times for the voting. Of course, we had instances where voting started on time, like in Harare Central, for example, it started around 7 a.m. and Harare East, it started on time. But then we have cases where in some instances, the starting time was around 9:30. Or 10 o'clock thereabout, or even after 2 p.m. and just as well in Glenville North, the voting has just started at around 4:30 p.m. So those are some of the concerns that we noted, the delays, and unfortunately the delay is not only in Harare also. We have a situation where in Manicaland at around 12 midday, only about 4 out of 26 constituencies had started the voting process. And also in Bulawayo, I'm sure you noted the concerns about, with regards to Bulawayo, the ballot paper for council candidates which had serious errors, grave errors, and due to that, voting started very late in most of the wards in Bulawayo. For example, Bulawayo Central started at around 11 a.m. Same applies to Bulawayo North, Bulawayo South, Entumba and Jube started at 12:15 midday. Pokoma Mzilikazi 11 a.m., Kulumane 11 a.m., Pegandaba 11 a.m., and Pomona started very late at 2:30 p.m. And those were the concerns that we noted. And however, like what the previous speaker said, we really salute the people of Zimbabwe because they have stood resilient, and some of them, they are still there waiting for the starting time. They are still there waiting for them to cast their votes. And what we noted in this regard is there is a 12-hour time frame allowable for voting. And we are, as the CCC, we are keeping watch of the times that the voting process started, and we expect ZEC to adhere to the 12-hour prescribed time frame. If voting started, say, at 2:30, then we expect the voting to stop at 2:30 a.m. So basically, this is where we are in terms of the starting times, and I will defer the proceedings to the other speakers, I think.
Right, members of the press, now that we've heard that summary from our chief election agent for the presidential candidate, as well as our elections directorate, we're now going to defer proceedings to our chain champion chief, President Nelson Chamisa, who's going to give up or deliver the main address.
Thank you, Advocate Mahere. Just to say that there's no main address to be made by myself, but just to appreciate members of the press for attending at such a short notice. We had no intention to have this press conference. As you are aware, this afternoon I voted in Kwazana. I was so humbled. The level of support from the people is overwhelming, but also humbling. But what is disturbing for us is that we had hoped that we would have a normal election. The election has not been normal. I think the chief election has already indicated to you what our complaints and concerns are. In fact, I'm sure they told you that they approached ZEC, but ZEC seems to be either weak, incapable, or out of capacity to deal with the issues that are supposed to be dealt with. Because those issues that were raised have not been addressed by ZEC, and it's a cause for concern. ZEC seems to have confirmed our fears that they will probably fail to pass the credibility test, the professionalism test, the independence test, and the constitutionality test. And more importantly, the non-partisanship test. Because we don't expect ZEC to pitch camp with any side of the fighting or competing sides in this election. The fact that they've targeted Harare, the fact that they've targeted Bulawayo is an indication that they are scared of people in the urban areas. They are scared of citizens in the urban areas. And if you look at the number of voters in Harare, you are talking of over 1.2 million registered voters who, in the main, have been disenfranchised. This is a clear case of voter suppression, a classic case of Stone Age, antiquated, analog rigging, where you say, find an excuse to say, we have all the other ballots, the presidential ballot is there, the parliamentary ballot is there, but you don't have the council candidates ballots. This is in Harare, where the ballots are being printed, but you have ballots for Uzumba, for Munzi, from Toko, where there's no printing press that prints ballots. It tells you that you need to smell a big red in terms of the approach of ZEC. And ZEC is not alone. There's handlers. And it is those handlers who are afraid of the imminent verdict of the people. That verdict is being contaminated, adulterated, because the people have spoken. Across the country, people are clear that they want change, and they support us. I mean, you can see that ZANU-PF are very desperate. They are rattled. They did not start today. They did it with the issue of the nomination. They did it even before the nomination, the gerrymandering, in terms of the boundaries. They did it even with double candidates, connivance to impose double candidates in the Triple C. What they tried to do in Bulawayo when they intended to withdraw and remove our 12 members of parliament. And now what you are seeing is an escalation of those antics and tactics. Tactics of desperation, tactics that are deliberate, that are shameless, and tactics that are done by people who are in trouble. They have no mandate to govern this country. So they plunged this country into a crisis. Starting from tomorrow, there's no government in Zimbabwe. Mr. Mnangagwa can claim, but he's not the president of this country, legally and constitutionally. So the country is being driven into a crisis, a constitutional crisis, a political crisis, and an electoral crisis. But we've said, and I must thank the citizens for soldiering on. They are still in the queue. And we are encouraging all the citizens, wherever you are, if you have not cast your vote, make sure you cast your vote. Your vote must count. They don't want your vote to count. They want to discount your vote, particularly in Harare, in Bulawayo, and in Manikali. But there's a formula to the madness. Mr. Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF, they know that they have no support in these provinces. And that's why they victimized the provinces, targeted them. But by doing so, they are also nullifying the effect of a credible election. And I'm glad as I welcome His Excellency President Goodluck Jonathan, who is here on behalf of the AU, just to observe and hear what our concerns are. We have invited all the observer groups. That is the norm, that is the standard, and I'm glad that they are taking note of our very well considered concerns. So yes, my message to Zimbabwe, we are receiving reports from across the country. What is shocking and surprising is that in the rural areas, it was not a vote. They were commandeering people, but our people were very vigilant. They had this thing that they called the exit poll survey, which is unheard of. Even in banana republics, they don't do such things. But Mr. Mnangagwa has scored the first. In this one, he has defeated Mugabe in all his weaknesses and mistakes. He has gone a notch higher. And we are not going to accept that nonsense. People's vote must count. Citizens' vote must count. The voice of the citizens must count. So yes, we're going to take our opportunity overnight to receive reports, to assess. We are not going to allow Mr. Mnangagwa to try and repeat a 2018 on the citizens of Zimbabwe. So my message to Zimbabwe is to encourage Zimbabweans to stay on course, to be vigilant, to wherever you are. I know if you have waited for 43 years, what's so special about the night? Endure. We are going to enjoy. We are going to celebrate. There is going to be the people's will and the citizens' will in this country. And I've always said, God is in it. God's way and God's will shall be fulfilled. And there's going to be celebration in this country because the people want change. May you amplify your voice, my brother?
It's not a question.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a call for clarification on the public the need for people to vote at night, which is also going to cause problems.
For cheating and chicanery, for amplifying the vote in the urban areas by importing people from the rural areas. We understand that they didn't have enough buses and transport and enough time to move people from the rural areas into the urban areas. I suppose that's the reason why. We can only conjecture because we asked for the explanation reason from Z. They can't give the reason. Because ZANU-PF do not indicate the reason why they are doing that. By having night activities, you're actually undermining the security and credibility of the vote. You're actually rendering the vote vulnerable to machinations, to forces. And we're also hearing reports of people who are even not feeling sick people who have been in the queues for their voice to count in government. You know, we are peacemakers. We would want to give peace a chance and democracy a chance. But there's a line in the sand that has to be drawn. So in terms of the credibility, you can see that Mr. Mnangagwa was planning all along to nullify the credibility of this work. It is up to him to justify to the world and to the people of Zimbabwe why he wants to continue on this path of illegitimacy. But as for us, we will not allow it, because we can't allow this country to be ruled or governed by people who do not have the mandate of the citizens.
I think for the first time in our country we're going to the night election. Public opinion has been concerned that they started voting a bit late, and yesterday evening we woke up today in the morning when there were a lot of flyers that were fake from the CCC discrediting that we had actually disformed this election. Now, given these circumstances, when we're having people voting at night, does the CCC have election agents or the capacity to defend the night vote, since people are continuously voting right now? Are you going to be defending the vote tonight? Because there are reports that fast agents are deployed across urban areas and across the country to try and manipulate the election.
Well, the first crime on the part of ZEC is their culpability and complicity in allowing FAS to be an extension of ZEC processes. FAS is not supposed to be anywhere near ZEC processes and ZEC activities. But they've contaminated and polluted these processes by inviting a shadowy, spooky, ghostly organization that is not known at law to come and interfere, poison and discredit the election. But this is not the first time FAS is doing funny things. They did it in the internal ZANU-PF elections, and a lot of manipulations were done. You know, it's common cause. They have repeated this to then now escalate their stubbornness to a national election. We will not accept that. But of course, ZANU-PF is so desperate. I've told you a catalogue of their desperate acts. These are the last kicks of a dying horse. They are history. They are the past. They are clinging on to power, but the people have shown them the red card. And this is why they have the audacity to lie, peddle falsehood. Mr. Chamisa has said, I will not participate in the election because it's rigged. Because that is what they wanted us to do, to boycott the election, so that they will then play the game with their own quizlings. But we've said, look, we are going to match you toe to toe, to the last man. And we've done so. We ran a fantastic campaign. We ran a fantastic mobilization. People support us. People are with us. All the four corners of the country. We are the only national party. ZANU-PF is not a party. It's a mafia gang. That's why you see terror in everything that they're doing. And we are conscious of what they're doing, especially as they print them. We even know where they printed those flyers. We have two companies where they were printing the flyers. FAS taking a kilo, ZANU-PF playing a kilo. That's their tactics. Selu scout tactics, Rhodesian tactics. They have learned well from Smith, and they continue that path on colonialism. We will stop them. The people shall come, and the citizens shall come.
And besides the communication we've received from SEC, has the party engaged SEC? And if not, if you have, what has been the response?
We have engaged ZEC to a point of nausea, to a point of actually being a nuisance. We had our election agents engaging ZEC, our election department and bureau engaging ZEC. Like we told you, ZEC are also, their hands seem to be tied. They don't have capacity to even tell you of what's happening. They held a press conference in the afternoon to say that I think the chief election it was fake. Well, I don't know, but there's, in fact, it's even scandal. They've not communicated with the people, so we don't even know what the position is. All we are just hearing is that ballots are going to come. People went to the ballot, the highest turnover ever, at 4 a.m. Up to this hour, they are still in the queue. What level of disrespect? What level of abuse? No respect, no apology, no special emergency, extraordinary address to say this is the situation, it must be corrected, and this is how it's going to be corrected. People have to go to work. People have to plan their lives. How do they plan their life? They have not exercised their mandate and their critical vote. This day was a holiday. What about tomorrow? How do they make sure that they pursue or they follow national processes? So it's a big issue that we have, particularly from ZEC. We've engaged them. We continue to engage them, but we're not happy with the response we are getting from ZEC. I'll take 3 last ones. 1, 2, 3.
Mr. You've been labeled a person who is weak in terms of approach to ZANU and alleged infringement on your party. You have said that you will not take it anymore. To what extent should Zimbabweans trust your word, and what is it that you do, which is different of what you did in 2018 or probably previously in the other opposite formations? What is it that you're going to do which makes it different and probably convincing to the voters?
My brother, I'm followed by people who follow me because they trust me. If you doubt me, that's okay. But those who trust us know what we are saying and they'll follow us. Thank you.
Just a point of clarity, you highlighted on cases of violence. I give information where this violence was conducted.
I'm sure the chief election agent highlighted, thank you, Ransom, highlighted that in Zarabani, the member of parliament in Zarabad was attacked. There's a police report. And many other areas where we have had, I think Mazoe, across the whole country. And I think that is the emphasis that was made. And there are reports that have been made. It's official. This is not conjecture. And people have been terrorized in the rural areas. You know, those poor exit poll stations are terror stations. Because you are being asked to come there, register, and they want to know whom you have voted for. You go back. That's rubbish. It doesn't happen in any civilized, jurisdiction. And that we have to fight. I identified the last one. Yes. Otherwise, we're going to spend the whole night here. I'm sure you need to go to other, places, and I respect your doubt.
Mr. Chamisa, your party has raised a lot of irregularities regarding this election. Let's say that 2008 repeats itself. Are you going to accept a GNU with President Emerson Mnangagwa?
My brother, let's not cross, the bridge that has not been gotten to. The issue at the moment is a credible election. We can't talk of a GNU under these circumstances. A GNU to do what? To cheat people. A GNU to deceive people. The people have voted, and their vote must count. They must choose a leader of their choice. Not this thing by Mr. Mnangagwa of wanting to come through the back door. In fact, he has not come through the back door. He wants to just come without even the door, just jumping over. We will not allow. He knows that he doesn't have the support of the people, but he wants to reproduce himself. Almost what we were fighting against under Mugabe is now a Mugabe times 2. Maybe, young people, you say Mark II Mugabe. We don't want Mnangagwa to be in that kind of a thing. Let us respect the will of the people. When the people have decided, let's respect their decision. That is our plea, and that is our request. My brother, I will say last,
okay,
very last thing.
Thank you. Last one.
I'm just trying to democratize.
Mr. Chamisa, you seem to be very sure about the outcome and how bad the situation is. Do we have some alternative suggestions on how we are going to deal with this bad situation according to how you have clearly expressed yourself?
Thank you, sir. I think this is what police was trying to say. But let's wait for, and I said, let's wait for a preliminary report, a comprehensive report, even. Then we'll come to you and give a way forward. Don't doubt us.
Thank you.
If you want to understand our weight and our salt, ask Zambia. Look at the investment that they're putting into fighting us. The resources will tell you that we are no meat mouse. Nobody deploys this kind of force against weak people. They know our true way, and they know that we mean business. Fortunately, we mean business in peace. That's why they can't fight us, because we can't fight and defeat a peaceful man. We carry the embodiment and wish of the people of Zimbabwe. And that's why people trust, and that's why people vote for us, and that's why people believe in us. And that's why when we say go and register to vote, they register to vote. When we say now, please make sure that you are participating in vote, they will participate.
All right, my question is just, I need a comment from you, President, about the presidential ballot papers in particular, where ZEC has said it has printed more than 7 million, and yet there are certain polling stations where the presidential ballot has run out.
Well, the ZEC fiasco is legendary. It's encyclopedic. I can't even start to talk about ZEC and its failures. I'm sure they are better, position to comment on that. I'm actually shocked. I heard that in Chikanga, they don't have ballots for the president, and in other areas it's for the local authorities. But it's deliberate to cause confusion so that they muddy the water. A catfish thrives in muddied waters. You know why? Because those antics and tactics become easy. But we will not allow them to distort the will of the people and to run away from the will of the people. Fellow members of the press, thank you for your indulgence. We appreciate your time, and may God bless you. We can assure you that the will of the people of Zimbabwe and the people of Zimbabwe out there, go and continue to defend your vote. Don't retire to bed before you have cast your vote in those areas where you have not cast your vote. We will come to you on the way forward, but we want the vote to count, and we want this election to have a meaning in the lives of the people of Zimbabwe. as we usher you in a new leadership in a new government. I thank you. God bless.